All right, we are live, and I'm here with Acadia After Dark podcast, but I'm here with Reverend Redbeard. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Good to be here.
Tell us who you are and what you do, man.
Well, I go in the podcast and radio circuit. I go by Reverend Redbeard. I host folk radio on a community station up here in Maine. I've lived around here a good chunk of my life. Uh, been interested in paranormal, high strangeness, spooky stuff most of my life, and I've started researching and writing about producing YouTube content, podcasts, Acadia After Dark being my main show that I work on now. And pretty much been doing this for the last 6 months or so, pretty steady. A lot of growth, a lot of learning involved, but definitely enjoying it.
Yeah, man. So the one question I ask everyone that comes on, as we know, you brought it up, high strangeness, this whole genre, right?
Right.
And we all got into it somehow. Like I got into it through Bigfoot. How did you get into this genre, or the gateway drug, I like to call it?
So actually, that's an interesting story. I first got interested in the stuff actually through my grandmother.
Okay.
Because her house, when I was very young, I'm talking as young as you can first develop memories, she lived in West Palm Beach, Florida, most of my life. And her house is the single most haunted place I've ever been to in all of my years.
Wow.
And even as a little kid, I experienced stuff there and I wasn't afraid of it. I was just more interested in finding out what it was. So then as I got older, I kind of got into researching about it and wanting to understand. Then over the years, it just kind of evolved into everything, all the UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, Mothman, anything that was paranormal and somewhat in nature, the supernatural, even just getting into straight up folklore and stuff like that has been a big interesting part of my life. So it started out there pretty young and it just kind of grew from that. But it was definitely living there, experiencing that stuff at such a young age. It just kind of became a second nature.
Yeah. And when did you move to Maine?
I was born in Maine and then I moved to Florida. We would go back and forth when I was a kid, traveling between Maine and Florida.
Right.
And then when I got older, I moved down there when I first turned like 18. I lived in Florida for about a year. It might have been a little short of a year, but I lived down there for a while, realized that it was not a place I wanted to live year round, and pretty quickly moved back up to Maine. And I've just laid down roots up here since then.
Awesome. Yeah, we lived in Florida. My family, we live in upstate New York. And when I say upstate, I mean actually upstate, not like Westchester, or or whatever. We live outside Syracuse. But so we had moved down to Florida for about, I don't know, I think we lasted a whole whopping like 6 months. And we were like, nope, I'm all set, man. So we moved back north. I mean, we didn't come all the way up north. We landed in Delaware for a bit, but yeah, I couldn't handle Florida in the summer and stuff. It was pretty brutal. So
yeah. Temperature wise, it takes some getting used to. The big thing for me was all the bugs.
Oh yeah.
I was like, man, I'm used to Maine bugs, but down in Florida, man, there was stuff that I didn't even know what it was called.
Yeah.
And so I spent this one summer there where it happened to be one of the years that the cicadas were up.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that pretty much killed the whole
freak you
experience
right
for me
out.
right then. Oh yeah, listening to those all night and then like waking up in the morning and just seeing that they're just like plastered all over the screened-in porch outside your house. I used to smoke, so I'd get up in the middle of the night and I'd go out there and I'd flip on the light switch, and then I would just see the walls moving, and I'd just nope.
Nope, I'm good.
Yep.
Yeah, and like you get well, they call them palmetto bugs, but they're just
Oh,
big ass
yeah.
cockroaches, right? So
Yeah.
my kids were like, nope. And where we lived, there was actually a black bear, a Florida black bear infestation. So we literally, and they're endangered, so you can't, do anything. Well, they would literally walk. My kids wouldn't even go outside and play because they literally, there was bears walking outside their bedroom windows. Unbelievable. So,
oh yeah, no fear at all.
none.
You go into some
zero.
of those areas, it's literally like you can't go off of the sidewalks, otherwise they're just there in the woods.
Even then, it didn't matter. Like my kids were riding their bikes with my wife, and next thing you know, there's a bear with a cub popping out across, coming across the street, and like, no,
I'll pass on that.
Exactly. Oh yeah. So it's like you got critters everywhere, and so
Did you ever have to deal with the alligators down there?
No, I dealt with alligators more in North Carolina when I lived there than I did in Florida. I didn't really have to deal with them, but I mean, I knew they're there. But
that's probably for the best. They were kind of
absolutely.
A pain in the ass.
They are a pain in the ass.
We had pretty common occurrence where you'd go out in the morning and they like to get underneath people's cars. So you go out there, and if one was under your car, you're not going to work that morning.
Yeah.
Simple as that, unless you were brazen enough, you wanted to get under there and drag him out. But I usually wasn't willing to do that.
Yeah.
4 foot long gator, not going to want to mess with that 6:30 in the morning. So
no, that's just crazy. Crazy. So, Maine, I have two so my wife and I, the last few summers have gone up to Maine. I mean, with my kids and whatnot. My daughter one of my daughters plays volleyball, and she was recruited by two different places in Maine. One was Southern Maine, it's like Southern Maine University, maybe. It's like in Gorham and Portland. There's a campus in both places.
Yep.
And then St. Joseph's, and I can't remember.
That's a little further up north.
Yeah, a little farther up north. But so we went up there and visited those schools. But I grew up going to he was my great uncle. And I wouldn't say growing up, I went a whole bunch. I went a couple times up to Porter, Maine. That area, that's actually named after one of my part of my family. The Porters. And so there was there, but they had a place on a lake called Moosehead Lake.
Yes. Yep, that's a well-known lake up here.
Yeah, so they used to spend their summers there, and then they spent their winters in Arizona. So every once in a while, we get invited, So I loved it up there, camp. I loved it. Yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's surprising the amount of variety you have, because you have like Southern Maine.
Yep.
Where your kids going looking at schools, and then you get to mid coast. It's like two entirely different places. Yeah. Then when you go up north, you're in a world
totally different world.
Other. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we went last year in the late summer. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the Lost Kitchen.
Heard of it? Yes.
Yeah. So it's a restaurant, super. I guess in theory, and I'm not saying this to brag, it's like the most exclusive restaurant in the world at this point.
Yeah.
Because the only way that they do reservations is you have to send in a postcard. And then they blindly pick postcards and call you and say, hey, when do you have available? And they've got and they only serve from May to September. Really, I think it's the end of September or April to September in Freedom, Maine. And so we got our postcard pulled last year. So me and
Wow.
my two of my daughters, I have 4 daughters, and my wife and I went up, and it was pretty freaking epic. It was, so I'm just saying to anyone listening too, if you ever, you got to send in a postcard. But I mean, and it's expensive too, but it's the best meal I've ever had. It was
Really?
amazing. And literally, like, the oysters, the scallops, the cod, everything that we had was like, had been caught like 2 days prior.
Yeah.
It was epic, an epic
Right off the
meal.
boat.
So that's when I went to, that was one of my main experiences. And then the other one is bougie Maine, where we went and stayed in like Ogunquit or Kennebunkport,
Oh yeah.
which is cool, but it's tourist, central.
Exactly.
The
Oh
place
yeah.
I've always wanted to go though, so maybe this fall,
Mhm.
is I'd like to run up to to Origin, Maine. You know what I'm talking about? There's
Yeah.
the plant there where they make jeans and all kinds of stuff. Everything's made in America, and it's just a cool freaking company. So I've always wanted to go up there and check those guys out. So anyway,
Yeah, we lucked out. We have some of those random weird outlets up here where
yeah.
like these companies you would never think would be up here, and we happen to be like the factory for them. So you can come up here and get like good deals on stuff like LL Bean.
Oh yeah,
Like
and I
the
wear like LL Bean everything almost.
right.
So
I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Is like I think if you live in New England, it's basically a staple of life, and
yeah,
you kind of, But Kennebunk, I mean, it's nice area, and there's definitely like plenty to see there. But like I said, it is kind of a tourist centric area,
oh yeah,
which is good. It's like Maine is kind
Yeah.
of tourist central nowadays compared to what it used to be. We used to be a big logging community. Fishing is a big thing, but as those have kind of had to be dialed back for obvious reasons,
Yep.
due to shifting changes in the climate and the economy and regulations and this and that, we've had to make adjustments. So a big part of our industry up here, and I don't know specifics on it, is like tourism.
Oh yeah.
So,
Well, what do they call it? Man, what's
vacation land.
Vacation land. That's it, man.
Vacation land.
And as soon as you go across the border from New Hampshire in, it's vacation land, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my god. But it's gorgeous there. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
we like the rocky coast, and it's a vibe, man. And I'm from New England originally, so I grew up in Connecticut. Well, I grew up for a while in Connecticut and love it. So and Maine, New England's all kind of the same a little bit. There's
Yeah.
that ethos, right?
Yeah, it's
But
got the same flavor.
But what's cool about Maine too is that it's got a lot of history, not just and it's not just, from like New England history. You get parts of Canada are straight up more, there's more influence from Canada than from Maine. I said Canada, but I meant Maine. But there's more influence from Canada than there is the United States in a lot of parts of Maine, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So you get all those stories too.
Yeah, like historically, basically, if you look back at like the region that is Maine now, before it was part of the territory of Massachusetts and owned as part of the original 13 colonies, before that, it was mostly Wabanaki territory.
Mhm.
So at the time, it was the Wabanaki Confederacy, which is like 12 different tribes
Yeah.
that was in the same region. One of the biggest ones is the Penobscot, is like literally the one that was mostly inhabiting Acadia National Park, or where I'm based out of.
Gotcha.
Then Acadians came in like the 16 to 1700s. Those were French settlers that came to Canada, and then were basically sent down here by the French royalty to basically settle the land. Then when things happened. I'm not going to get into a long, detailed history on it, but things happened where basically they drove them further south. So what was the original Acadia? So Acadia After Dark, the original region of Acadia went basically all the way from Nova Scotia down through the coast of Maine, almost to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And it's a melting pot, like you said. It's European. it's Canadian French. You've got a little bit of that, history there. You've got indigenous history. Then you have the colonial New England history that came in like the 17 to 1800s, which really is like just the tip of the iceberg when you look back at all of the region history. And that's what I'm trying to like dig deeper into. The further back I go, it's like peeling back layers on an onion. It's just more and more and more. And unlike anything I've ever seen, because it's so varied. Like we have stories of everything from all these different cultures here. And it's really wild when you like see how diverse it is.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I just know a lot of people in northern Maine speak French.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like almost like
we call it the county, and basically
Yeah.
if you're past Bangor, you've got to have it as a second language.
Right.
You're not gonna be able to just coexist there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Which is so cool. I mean, it's cool. It's not, but it is literally like a different country, right?
Yeah,
Almost.
it feels that way. It certainly feels that way. I've made the argument. I mean, honestly, if it were to come down to it, they have said before that like you don't really know where the border is once you get past a certain way, because it's just the way it feels. You get up here, you might as well just be in Canada at a certain
right,
point.
right, for sure. Yeah, it's almost like that here too. Once you get up into up the North Country, you've got everyone. It feels like everyone's got roots in Canada as well, or just as much in Canada as they do here. So
You're right on the other side of the lakes, basically. So
yeah, I mean, literally the only thing different or the only thing separating you is the St. Lawrence River. That's it. So yeah. So Acadia After Dark. So give me some stories, man. Like some stuff that's like piqued your interest as of throughout the years. Like what are some cool stories? And whether they're ghosts, it doesn't matter what they are. It's just
All right, we'll roll the dice. I'll do one of my most popular ones, possibly. Have you heard of the werewolves?
not in Maine. No.
We have. You can choose to call them werewolves or
you know what? I
dogmen.
feel like I saw. Isn't there like a family?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I saw that on your website.
You want to hear that?
What did you just see that? I had balloons.
I saw balloons.
What was
How'd
that?
happen?
And all I did was this.
That's weird. Magic.
It's the werewolves, man. They made the balloons pop up.
Apparently, that wouldn't surprise me because this case is a weird one. So yeah, if you want to hear some of that story,
I do.
That's a really cool one. It's basically involves this family, the Martin family, back in the early 2000s. Eric Martin, Shelley Martin. Eric Martin's a textile worker. He gets injured at work. And as a result of it, they had this nice house that was like closer to Portland. They had to sell it and move further out into the rural territory. So they move out to the town of Palmyra. And Palmyra, gorgeous community, but it's like farmland surrounded by woods. So they buy this little ranch out there, okay? And it's a good piece of property. Like I found it and I've actually checked it out. And it's a nice area, but this area has a history. It had a history dating back. They didn't know this, of course, never do, but they basically bought this plot of land that they had has been like storied since the literally Wabanaki people used to talk about seeing like ghost lights and stuff there.
Right.
It's had all kinds of weird activity throughout the generations, and they just happen to have bought this house that sits right in the middle of this like area that's just rife with this stuff. Okay.
Right.
So setting up that pretty much as soon as they move in, they start having weird stuff happen. The family is husband Eric, Shelley, his wife, and their daughter Chelsea. His son Sean lives a little while away. He's like in the next town over, basically. Okay. And I'll tell you right now, as far as I know, this story is true, but it's almost impossible to confirm any of it.
Got you.
Which is unfortunate because there's some details of it that I really feel like there should be something there. We'll get to it, but basically they buy this house, they move in. As soon as they move in, they start seeing weird stuff. For instance, they're sitting out in their dooryard one night, they're drinking their coffee, it's like 10 at night. They're looking across the yard and they see lights moving through the trees, thinking it's somebody with like flashlights or something that was like trespassing. So Eric calls his son. Son comes over. They go out, walk the trail out to where they saw these lights. Okay. They get out there, and as soon as they went through the tree line, these lights just disappeared, just gone. Not that like they heard anything, just it was silent and the lights went away. So they basically chalk it up to just a weird thing. Wait around a little while to see if they come back, spot them walking to their car or something, figuring some teenagers, I guess, right? So they walk up the road. They don't see anybody. They don't see anybody parked anywhere remotely nearby to where they could have walked to the property. And this is remote. So if there's anybody out there walking around in these woods, they're hiking for miles in the middle of the night in the dark. It's not highly likely. But they give up. They walk back home. They all go to bed. Nothing else happens that day. Then, as they're staying there, stuff continues. Weird shit keeps happening. Their daughter is going out on a walk. She happens to come across this weird hole in the ground that her dog's like freaked out and dragged her over to. And it's this big hole that looks like something like a large animal had burrowed into this pile of just wood and just made a nest. And she's looking at that. She just gets this freaked out vibe. She's just like, I gotta get away. So the dogs run back to the house. She calls her boyfriend. He comes back with her. They actually try going in the hole and they see that there's like hair and stuff inside of it. So something definitely was making a den. And this is like right on their property. Okay. So then fast forward, just weird, strange stuff happening. We come to Memorial Weekend. And basically, they're out there chilling out at the end of the night, enjoying their time, sitting on the porch, just looking out across the property. And Eric and Shelly are there. And Eric sees something like eye shine walking out of the woods. And he pretty immediately, he's a hunter and he's lived around this area. He recognizes predators and he knows like if it's a coyote or something like that, he's usually going to drive it off. So he gets up and as he's looking, he notices more sets of eyes popping up in the tree line. Well, he pretty much immediately tells his wife, I think you need to get inside. She gets up, she starts heading into the house. And as she's heading inside, he sees 5 dark shapes just come out of the tree line and start making their way across this field towards their house. He turns around, hightails it inside behind her. They shut the door. They lock the windows. They lock the door. They're closing the blinds. And as they're closing the blinds, they see these things walking up into like the porch light. And as they described it, these are animals that were standing on their hind legs about 7 feet tall. They had a dog-like head, blackish brown fur. There's 5 of them that they can see. And they said that they could tell they were like, they walk on all 4s, but they'd stand up freely on their back legs, right, like rear up and be able to walk around. This is not common traits for most animals up here. Coyotes do not do that.
Yeah, no.
Bears don't really move around that way unless they like are trying to get something. Yeah. We have black bears, lots of them, but anybody that lives here knows what a black bear looks like. So unfortunately, they like had already gotten into the house and locked their doors and everything. So they're stuck inside, and these animals are circling up on their porch and everything. Eric had a bunch of guns because he was an avid hunter, but his wife absolutely hated having guns in the house.
Right.
So he had to store them in his barn on the property, which is out on the other side of the house. Looking at it, I'd say it's probably about 100 feet away from their main house, because they have like a little shed that is just like for like their car and stuff.
Yeah.
And then they had a bigger barn, which is where he had to store his guns. So he tries to get out the back door, hoping to sneak out by around the back to get to the guns to defend themselves. Unfortunately, he gets out there and they had a motion sensor floodlight. And as soon as he walked in front of it, that light came on and he hears the animals start running around the side of the house to come out.
Oh my God. So
he basically aborts mission, runs back inside, slams the door behind him, and they run upstairs, figuring, okay, we'll at least get up to the second floor and get a better visual on these things. So they go upstairs. Their dogs are hidden in their bedroom, like cowered in under their bed.
Yeah, I would think.
And they wake up their teenage daughter and they tell her, like, hurry up, get into the bedroom. She goes in not knowing what's going on and basically is just freaking out. From what they said, she was pretty much just traumatized at that point. She's 17 years old and like getting woke up in the middle of the night with her parents screaming, we got to hide in the bedroom. I'm sure she wasn't having a great time. But we turn around, she's like, as they're going into the bedroom, they hear something climbing up the side of the house that gets onto the little overhang roof that's right outside of the bedrooms. And they can hear these things climb up the side of the roof and then onto the roof above their heads and just start digging into the tiles above their heads. Like they can hear them scraping at the wood, trying to dig through the roof to get at them in the bedroom. They have the lights off. They're freaking out, trying to just like stay calm enough they don't make them more aware of where they are. And Eric decides he has to try and go for the guns again. So for whatever reason, he makes another attempt. He goes downstairs. He gets all the way out to his truck, figuring, okay, if he gets to his truck, he can pull the truck up front. And at least then he has something that if they come after him, he could like hit them or drive away. Right. So as he goes to get to his truck, one of the things literally comes around the side of the house. And he said, as soon as it came around the house, it went by that same spot where that floodlight had been. And when the light hit it, he saw it, like fully saw the whole thing and what it looked like. And he said it was not like anything he had ever seen before. But it also, as soon as that light hit it, the thing freaked out and like ran away. It didn't like being in the light for whatever reason.
Goodness.
So as soon as it runs off, he decides, okay, I'm going to get to the barn. Well, unfortunately, there's no light on that side of the house. So as soon as he went to run around, he can hear the other ones coming back around because they heard the whole thing going on. He, again, runs inside and they just batten down the hatches and decide, okay, we're going to wait it out. So they're all inside. And they basically just had to cower in that room for the rest of the night until about 6:30 in the morning when the sun finally came up. And they said when the sun came up, it was like silent instantly. They just gone.
Right.
They turned around. They went back outside. In full daylight, they went and inspected the property. They found like the tiles that were torn off of the shingles.
Yeah.
They found scrapes in the porch, the wood around the doors where they've been trying to scrape their way in. They found like dig marks all over the front of the house where they had just been rooting around in the ground, trying to find ways to get underneath, I'm guessing. And supposedly, this is the part where I'm like, I wish there was more ways to verify this.
Yeah.
Supposedly, he had his son Sean come over with his digital camera, took a bunch of pictures of these tracks, the scrapes, all of that. Okay. Then apparently, for whatever reason, when he went to transfer them, they all got deleted.
Of course they did.
Of course they did, right? So then, after that, they had called the cops. The cops basically told them, "We're sorry, there's nothing we can do for you."
Oh my God.
They didn't even question them if it was like they believed them or not. They were just like,
yeah, we can't help you.
Right. And to that, I have to say, honestly, having lived in this area and knowing how like law enforcement around here is, people that aren't in rural areas like this kind of have to get the picture that if you have a town like Palmyra that has like, 1,500 people living there tops.
Yeah, you're on your own.
You've got 2 cops that are covering like that and 3 other towns around you. You're pretty much on your own. The nearest hospital is a half an hour away. You're not, you're pretty isolated. So I do understand that it was probably Memorial Weekend. You probably got one guy sitting at the station. He's like, I'm not equipped to deal with this.
Right,
so that
exactly.
I'm like, I don't necessarily knock him for that.
Can I take a message, please?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, we'll check in with you tomorrow. Hope you do all right. Happy Memorial Day.
Wow.
But I thought that story was really cool. I did a lot of research on it after the fact, and there's certain parts of it that I would like to find out more. Like, I want to dig deeper into it, but I thought it was an interesting story.
Absolutely.
You probably heard it a few times, or at least like versions of it, because I know that it's one that got covered on like that show Paranormal Witness. They were on that years ago. So it's one of those ones, pretty famous around here, but we have more. Like,
bottom line is, though, I bet his wife allows him to have guns in the house now.
I certainly hope so, because honestly, if there was anything that would ever convince somebody, is when you're besieged by literal werewolves for an entire night.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow.
But we do have like the Turner Beast, which is literally right up the road from there, which is another wolf-like cryptid.
Yeah. But is it like different, or is it just...
It's wolf-like, it's smaller. It was an animal that was hit by a person, like in a car. And when they identified it, it was some type of a hybrid, basically. Wow. When I saw the pictures of it, it looks like a jackal to me. And we don't have jackals here.
Yeah, of course not. Because
I don't know
they don't even live in North America.
Right. I don't know how we would end up with a wild dog in Maine, but that's what it looked like when I saw it. And that one was like confirmed. It did happen. So we have some weird stuff that doesn't even fit on the radar.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I see that there's a few Bigfoot sightings in and around Acadia.
Yep.
Yeah, which is not surprising.
No, we're very squatchy up here, I think. It's a good area, but it's also, we've got that thing where we're so low population density that the animal-human encounters aren't high.
Yeah.
That's why we don't show up. When you look at us on like, you look at us on most of the like Bigfoot tracking, like
the Bigfoot mapping project or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's like we've got probably like 30-something sightings since the 70s.
Right. But Acadia's got the most, actually. And it's probably because it's a heavy tourist presence.
There's a lot. And we have a big national park here where a lot of people are out hiking and stuff. And this national park, it's like, it's one of those areas that part of the whole Acadia After Dark thing is it's like a pristine, beautiful, like scenic place.
The Acadia National Park is gorgeous.
It absolutely is.
But it's a national park.
That's true.
There's always shady shit going on in national parks or national forests.
Absolutely. And this one is no exception. That's where the After Dark aspect came in, because even the old legends here always said that, like, despite it all, once night sets in here, it really does like gain a whole different vibe. The island that Acadia National Park is around is Mountain Desert, and it literally is probably one of the most haunted places you've never heard of. and everywhere in that island is haunted. It's just one of those places. It's a gigantic rock that is just granite. It is full of rock holes and caves and all kinds of weird stuff, mountains and everything else, tons of forests. There's like fishing communities all around the coastline, and then there's just all of this expanse of nature.
Yeah.
And all kinds of stuff collects there. I like to say that like all the stuff that like gets kicked out of the Appalachians ends up here.
Right. Absolutely right. It's like where it all just goes to like hide, right?
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
vacation land, right?
Yeah,
I mean, everybody
right.
needs a vacation.
But
They
I
come
mean,
here
you're
too.
right. Like if you look at the map, once you get north of like I mean, I say that there really isn't anything north of. I mean, you've got like Augusta and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Off the coast. And then really once you get past Belfast, which I know I've been to Belfast and it's not very much. Like
It's a little fisher tourist
yeah.
village.
But
It's
once you
nice.
get north of there, shit. Like that's it, man.
Bangor is like the next like hub, and that's like in the middle of the state, basically.
Yeah, right.
Then north, you end up in like, well, like I said, you go really far north, you're in basically what we call the county. That's rustic. And we have you have around the Allagash waterway, Moosehead Lake area.
Yep.
That's like a big national park as well. And it's very densely forested. We have like I think an 80% forestation rate since we like stopped cutting all of our trees down, and we're probably one of the most forested states. But you go to that area, you have to literally take a plane in.
Yeah.
Is that remote in some areas, and we have so much stuff up there that nobody can track. There's literally no people out there.
Yeah,
So
man,
when it comes to like, I've done a lot of research on the eastern cougar because it's supposedly extinct in all of the eastern United States aside from Florida. And I know factually they're here. Like we have eastern cougar here in Maine, in Acadia. And it's not even like a secret around here, but it's just not acknowledged by biologists and game wardens and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
It's like every person you talk to up here has seen one.
Oh yeah, but they're like, nah, those don't exist.
Yeah, no, they'll literally gaslight you about it and stuff.
Right.
Like, are you sure it wasn't a house cat?
Oh my Lord. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
We kind of get the same thing in the Adirondacks here. Because people see they'll see cougars and they'll be like, well, it's just a transient, whatever. Transient to where? Probably to Maine now.
Right.
Now that I hear that. But then like wolves too. Like, you know, oh, there's no wolves. Yeah, there's freaking wolves.
Oh yeah.
Or there's some sort of hybrid because they're giant. They're not coyotes. So
no, you see a coyote, you definitely know the difference between a coyote and a wolf. They are a very different animal, and they
about 100 pounds different.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah,
we have tons of coyotes around here, but it's like Western Maine. We have wolves, but they supposedly are transient coming through Canada down to the lakes.
Right.
I'm like, they have such wide territories. There's no way that there's not populations of them somewhere out there in the state.
Yeah.
Just one of those things. It's kind of, it's almost to the point of absurdity for them to try and say they're not. But
right. Yeah.
We have such a weird relationship with nature here because we had like a forest industry and a fishing industry that basically controlled a lot of the economic decisions of the state for centuries, and it still does to an extent. I think that's like the biggest reason we don't acknowledge some of the stuff that's here is because if we did, then we have to actually deal with it.
Yeah. Like, that makes sense. My Lord. Yeah, it really is. Like when you get into the interior, man, and it's like, wow.
Yeah. We had, I mean, down here, when you look at like Acadia and Mount Desert Island, that area is surprisingly populated with like all these little fishing towns and like little like vacation spots.
Yep.
Bar Harbor in particular is like, if you ever do want to come up to Maine and go to a really just cool place, that's the one that I would recommend.
Yeah.
If you want to go to a place that it's got a good mix of everything, and they have, I mean, you're in Acadia National Park, but you also have like a cool little like fishing village that's been modernized to the point that they have like a movie theater and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's all like historic stuff.
Yeah,
it's like
that's
you have
awesome.
stuff to do, but you can also enjoy the nature of everything. And that's, I mean, I grew up there, and I go there in the summers and just play tourist for the day, and it's like it's magical. It really is. I can't recommend it enough. If you're traveling in the area, definitely check that place out.
And everything's haunted.
Exactly. I mean, 5 haunted inns at least that are all beautiful, and I could fully recommend. I published an entire list of just haunted hotels and inns in the local area a couple of weeks ago, and that was barely like the tip of the iceberg, because it seems like it's honestly everywhere. And half the trails up here are haunted too. If you go to Acadia National Park and you just walk through the park, there's like numerous trails that are just haunted.
So why is that, do you think?
I think it has a lot to do with the history of the area, because it's incredibly old. And I think it's actually the granite rock composition combined with the fact that it's surrounded by water.
Yeah.
I think the combination and the interplay of those energies mixing seems to do things. And that's what every medium I've ever talked to says, is they're like, it's gotta be that.
Yeah.
And I actually was just talking to a woman. She's a Micmac. She's lived in the area her entire life. And she said that in their stories, like, that's the main reason. Is she's like, it's because of the water. It's because the water keeps all of that energy there.
Yeah.
And so it makes it so spirits, they're just grown into the rock, and they just stay in this area.
Yeah, that's because, I mean, it's one of those things, like you hear, ley lines and just areas that are thin, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if it does. It's probably got something to do with the granite, the stone.
She kind of described it as the opposite. She described it as a void, of where like a ley line, you would be getting energy from other things, and this one, the energy stays within.
Oh, so it's
the
way
way
like
she described it.
Yeah, kind of like an energy island is more. Like, literally. No pun intended there, but
yeah, it's very weird. But honestly, like, I've stayed in so many places around here, and like, I'm a skeptic when it comes to 99% of stuff, to the point that I kind of ruin my own fun a lot of times.
Right.
People have said that, like, you give away the plot too fast. And I'm like, well, I'm not a snake oil salesman. I'm not going to tell people stuff that I don't believe is true, right? So part of that goes through like a lot of these haunted places that I've stayed at on the island, and places that I've investigated and that I've been to. A lot of those places, it's like a certain degree of it is like they have a history. You kind of live here, that going in. So you always have to set that aside, because you already know the story and the legends behind a place. You're not going to really be able to really experience it.
Yeah. You got to kind of go in cold.
Yes. I've only been able to do that once. And I didn't know what I was getting into until after. And the place doesn't operate under the same name that it used to go by, and I don't know the name of it now. But there was this inn that I stayed at probably back in, I want to say it was 2018. There was this inn. It's right in the center of town. Small little bed and breakfast.
This is in Bar Harbor?
In Bar Harbor.
Okay.
In Bar Harbor, okay? So it's right in the center of town. This little bed and breakfast. We had a storm coming through town, and where I worked, to make sure we had staff, we would just house people in one of the hotels. I opted to stay there the night, figured, okay, I got a free night in a hotel and a nice meal, and I'll just be into work a little early the next morning. Okay. So as we settle in for the night, I have never stayed at this place before. I've never heard a word of it. Know nothing of it. So that night, we all stayed up, down in the bar downstairs drinking and stuff, and had a good time. And then everybody goes to their separate rooms. We all settle in. It's about 2 a.m. that I'm laying in bed, and I feel a pressure on the end of my bed. I'm staying in this room alone. So immediately I'm like, there's no way there's somebody there. But I felt the pressure. Well, when I open my eyes and I look down at the foot of my bed, I'm laying on my side and I look down, I see the silhouette of a cat sitting right at the foot of my bed. And I'm like, that's really weird, because I don't know why you would have a cat just roaming around the place, and how would it get into my room, right? So I go to get up, and when I get up, I don't see this cat anywhere. I turn on the light. I'm looking under the bed. I'm looking to see if the door had opened, if there was like a closet that it could have crawled in through. I can find nothing. No trace of this animal anywhere. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out in the hallway and see if I can spawn anything. And I open up the door and I look out in the hall, and down in the hallway, there's this little like hatch, like a little storage door. And I see that door, and for some reason, I just got this vibe that I was like, don't go anywhere near that door.
Right.
Right. So I'm standing on the 3rd floor of this hotel. Well, this inn. And I just get this vibe. I'm like, don't go anywhere near that door. And I figure it's already almost 3 a.m. I got to go to work at like 4. I'm just going to get up and go downstairs and start getting coffee, whatever. So I get up, I go down, and I get into the lobby. The owner happened to be there. He's clearing off cars and getting the porch cleared off so people can get out in the morning and everything. And I go up to him and I'm like, hey, man, I'm like, I got a question for you. I'm like, I just got woken up. I'm like, and he's like, oh, really? He's like, is somebody being loud? I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't know what it was. I'm like, something woke me up. And then I thought I saw a cat in my room. And he's like, oh, you're on the 3rd floor, right? I was like, yeah. And he's like, you're the one on the end of the hallway. It's like, yeah. He's like, everybody that stays in that room has that happen.
Wow.
He's like, every single person that stays in there right next to that little cubby hole, every person that stays in that room sees that. I'm like, well, you don't have a cat? He's like, no, we've never had a cat here.
Wow.
Like, we do not. So I was a little weirded out. I go to work, figure I come back. End of the day, I go and check back in. There's a different person at the counter. And I'm like, hey, I'm just going to see if he was just feeding me a,
line of crap.
Yeah, So I'm like, hey, do you guys happen to have a cat around here? They're like, no, we don't have a cat. Like, we can't have cats. Yeah. I'm like, okay, so is there anything on the 3rd floor that I should know about? And they're like, well, we don't really like advertise it. They're like, but yeah, like people have said some really weird things. And I'm like, about a cat. He's like, yeah, about a cat. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, so what's the deal with this place? And he's like, I'm not supposed to say anything.
Oh my gosh, really? Come on, dude.
So I'm like, come on. I'm like, buddy. I'm like, come on. I'm like, I'm from around here. I'm like, this is not my first rodeo. I'm like, tell me the lowdown. He's like, okay. He's like, I'll level with you. He's like, over there, points off to his left. It's like that little door past the coffee station. That door is where our spa is now. So they had like a masseuse and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is on the 1st floor of this place. He's like, if you go through that door, there's the massage tables, there's a sauna set up, and then on the other side of the room, there's a metal door that's sealed up. That door is the ovens for the crematorium that used to be in the basement of this place.
Baby, nice. That's legit right there.
Dude, to say I almost shit a brick.
That's awesome.
And that right there, I was like, honestly, having gone into that completely cold, had an experience that was then confirmed, And then to find out that this place had that weird, like, I mean, to find out this was like a funeral home, literally. They're
Yeah,
turning
like I wonder what else they've got besides cats or a
that would
cat.
make me, if I can get back there to stay again, I absolutely would, because it was also just a really nice place. Like it
Yeah,
was just an incredibly nice inn. But knowing that history to it, I'm like, I want to go back now. But the
absolutely.
guy that sold it didn't want to be advertised as like a
Yeah.
haunted place. And
Yeah,
we
but
have like a
doesn't he
ghost
understand
tour
like
up here.
people shy away from that, but why? Like in this day and age, well, you know what? I guess it's kind of going that way, right? Like this genre that we're in is becoming way more less stigmatized. So at the end of the day, hotels should be like, yeah, we are haunted.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we have like a bit of dark tourism up here, and of course, I kind of play a part in that because of what my role is in telling the stories and the history of the place.
Right.
But we've had people that are here and established doing it. Like there's a ghost tour that does the entire Bar Harbor circuit,
And see,
and they tell
our
all
harbor
kinds
seems
of
like
cool
I was
stuff.
just looking at pictures. It seems like the perfect town to do that in.
Oh, it's so cool. And
Because
it's
you got
just
that small downtown area, you know.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. Heck yeah.
Old historic buildings and just like tons of history and lots of local
So
flavor.
cool.
It's great for that stuff, and that's why I think a lot of people just love it. And the people, it's funny how many people I know that are interested in what we talk about and stuff that come up here not knowing any of that stuff and
Yeah.
then discover that stuff when they're here and they're like, "Oh, holy shit, this is awesome." But then I talk to other people from like other countries and they think the entire place is like a Stephen King novel.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, it's weird that the people that are
He
around
just
here
he
don't
just
realize that.
lives in the state. Like he's not like the mayor of the state or anything.
I
That's
mean,
pretty funny.
he's told some stories that have definitely like been embedded in our culture.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, a lot of his books are like straight up. You would, if you know and you live in the area, you know the place he's talking about, the way he
Yeah,
describes them,
right.
and I get a kick out of it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, man, I mean, dude, it's one of those places I gotta get up there again. I mean, it's not a hard sell to my wife. So, and
Well,
going
hey,
that far north is not. So that would be cool.
we have if you're in the area between Bar Harbor there down towards Augusta in September, we're going to be having a paranormal and horror convention that's going to
Ooh.
be absolutely amazing. That one I want to
In
say is
September.
September. Yeah,
So tell us about that.
that one's going to be that's huge. I've only, this is the first year they're putting it on, and it's going to be, I can't remember the name of the venue, but they have some. It's just such a mixed bag of everything from paranormal people like John Zaffis or the guys from Mountain
Okay.
Monsters,
Yeah.
to like horror writers and directors and like actors and stuff. It's just going to be like a really cool mixed bag. And that's going to be going on, I want to say 2 days in September. I'm looking forward to that because it's the first year they put it on. So we
Yeah.
haven't had something like that on that scale here in a long
I'm
time.
finding that these festivals and conferences are a good reason to travel.
Yes,
And I'm loving it.
absolutely.
Like I'm like already this year I'm going to Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee for
What
conferences.
what's the Pennsylvania one? I feel like there was one.
It's the Central PA Bigfoot Festival.
Oh, cool. That'd be
Yeah.
a
So a
fun one.
friend of mine puts that on. So it's the third year of it. So
Nice.
I'm probably gonna, the idea is maybe starting one in New York. So
I'm surprised New York doesn't have one,
no, well,
honestly.
like I don't know, maybe they do, but I'm saying, well, there is over in like Whitehall. There's a
Hmm.
Bigfoot festival over there, which is where on Lake Champlain,
Yeah,
that whole area over in talk about history.
right.
You're not that far from Ticonderoga and Lake George and all of
It's gonna
that.
jump.
Yeah. So,
Well, hey, you're in the New York region. Let me ask you about one that came across my radar. Somebody was
okay.
asking me about recently. The Catskills crone.
Oh,
Familiar with that one?
I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Other than obviously what a crone is, but
Sure.
I haven't really looked into it, but I'm writing it down.
Yeah, somebody put that on my radar a while ago because I do research like all of New England. I specialize in Maine and the weird shit up here because honestly I've got enough on my hands, but I do research the other stuff. But yeah, that one's a weird one. It's got some really strange details to the case.
And
really cool.
My wife was actually just down in, she was in Woodstock for the weekend.
Oh, nice.
So that's sort of in the Catskills. Not quite, but kind of.
It's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Holy moly.
Yeah. I've been through New York. I haven't gotten to spend a lot of time there. I was always more like Connecticut, Massachusetts, where I spent more time.
For sure. Yes. So absolutely. I'm definitely, yeah. So I've got that written down. September.
Looking too.
All right. So Reverend, again, reiterate where you can find you and
I'm basically on all the socials. I'm the same thing, Acadia After Dark, and YouTube would probably be the most activity as far as like content and everything. I put the podcast episodes as well as the actual Acadia After Dark show. We also do some shorts content, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Currently in the process of writing a book, so we'll see that pretty soon. That's starting up on the socials.
Yeah. So when you get that done, I'll have you back on. We'll talk about it.
Absolutely, man. I got plenty to talk about, I'm sure.
Awesome.
Well, hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's fun, and you're speaking my language in one of my favorite areas to hang out. So I'll let you know when we're on our way.
Hey, definitely do, man. I'd love to meet up. It's a great area. You'd enjoy it, I'm sure. Plenty to see out here.
For sure, man. I totally appreciate you coming on, and we'll do it again soon.
Anytime, bud.
Yeah, I got bad thoughts that make my mind scared. Hold me hostage and they don't fight fair. Who gon' pray for me and wipe on my tears? Who gon' save me if you not right here? Move this darkness and make my sight clear. Take me your way cause I don't like here. Ghosts of my past, they feeling the night air. Wake me up, I'm trapped in my nightmares. Wake me up, I'm trapped in my nightmares. Drowning, I'm off the deep end. Apparitions of all my demons. All my thoughts are committing treason. All alone, who gon' hear me screaming? Manifestations of my fears. Regrets that stretched out for light years. Can almost touch the light, homie, it's right there. Body free but trapped in my nightmares. Wake me up, don't let me drown. All the lights are fading.